It's happening more and more. Tulsa County judges are setting bonds for people charged with murder.
That means murder suspects could be walking among us while they await trial. I noticed the changes, researched the numbers, and looked into the reason why. It's my Fox 23 investigation. It's a crime we have to report far too often.
We got one gunshot victim inside the library.
Someone violently taking the life of another, prompting lengthy investigations.
It's important to get somebody who's willing to just shoot somebody over nothing.
And leaving victims' loved ones in despair.
And he was very caring, and he had 4 daughters that he really cared about.
We all miss her so much.
Dozens of people are charged with first-degree murder in Tulsa County every single year. It's a charge law defines as when, quote, a person unlawfully and with malice aforethought causes the death of another human being. Malice aforethought, then defined as, quote, the deliberate intention unlawfully to take away the life of a human being. If you look at the Tulsa County District Court preset bond schedule, you see 0 next to the charge. It means law does allow judges to withhold bond, keeping defendants behind bars while they go through the court process. Now, in my years as the crime reporter, between 2014 and 2021, I noticed that the vast majority of judges chose no bond in these first-degree murder situations. But recently, I have seen a change, and defense attorneys. Are you noticing a difference with bonds being set in Tulsa County?
Short answer is yes.
As well as prosecutors agree. Is that something that you would say is going on?
I noticed that too.
I did some research going through all the first-degree murder cases from 2018 and then 2023 to give you a first-hand look at what I'm talking about. In 2018, of the 42 first-degree murder charges I dug up, only 3 people were given bond. One was a 16-year-old who was granted a $250,000 bond. The other 2 had their bond set at $1.5 million apiece. The 39 others, 93%, had no bond. In 2023, a different story. Court records showed 28 first-degree murder charges. 25 people were given a bond. One woman was given a $150,000 bond. 3 others had bonds ranging from $500,000 to $800,000. And get this, 17 people had their bond set at $1 million. There was one case with a $5 million bond and another with $7 million. In all, just 5 murder suspects, only 18% compared to the 93% in 2018, were held without bond. Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler says we're seeing the natural ebb and flow of the system.
You will have different judges who have different perspectives that come in. Sometimes I may have judges that come out of the public defender's office and they see things a different perspective than I might. Sometimes I'll have judges that may come out of the civil division and they don't have quite the exposure to the criminal court process. Sometimes I'll deal with judges who are accustomed to criminal prosecution.
But local defense attorney Max Dean tends to think it's more of a shift in thinking as a society when it comes to the judicial system. More specifically, the constitutional rights of a person being innocent until proven guilty.
We've seen a tone and tenor change throughout the country that's reverberated throughout the Oklahoma courts and potentially the legislature as we move forward.
Dean says it appears the courts are recognizing that no criminal charge, even first-degree murder, is a one-size-fits-all charge when it comes to pre-trial accusations. He agrees some defendants should be held without bond. For example, this man, Carlton Guilford. In 2023, he was arrested, charged, and convicted of killing 2 Tulsans in cold blood simply because they were white. Dean says Guilford's first-degree murder case was much different than, for example, Julian Zavaleta's first-degree murder case, a man who Dean recently represented following a deadly shooting in an AutoZone parking lot in 2022. Dean explained the differences he sees in Guilford's and Zavaleta's cases.
One is perhaps a hate crime that was perpetrated. Another one is a road rage incident. And a problem we see is that these are being treated just as the same. Just as the same under the bond schedule.
Dean argued Zavaleta was acting in self-defense when he shot and killed a woman after a scuffle on the road.
He had a stable family, heavily involved in his church. He was very tightly intermingled in the community here. He was not going to be a flight risk. This is a young man who'd never been in trouble before in his life.
For that reason, Dean felt Zavaleta should be out on bond while awaiting trial, but the judge did not agree to lower the amount.
It certainly disadvantages and hampers a defendant in a system that's already heavily stacked for the state to come out victorious.
On the other side of all of this are the murder victims' families. In December, a jury convicted Zavaleta of first-degree murder. The family of the victim, Chantel Smith, was thankful he was never let out on bond. In fact, they told FOX23 in court his self-defense claim just made the entire situation worse.
He chose to take her life, and it was a little insulting because not only do we have to deal with you took our sister from us, but to try and smear her name like that was just like killing her all over again.
In another case, this one this year, Cheryl Ritchie, whose daughter Cassidy was killed in January, talked with FOX23 about her disappointment after court when she learned bond was set for the suspect, Chris Moreland.
Why? Why would he get a $5 million bond when they could have left it at no bond?
That's what you would have preferred?
Yes, anyone would prefer that. Any family member would prefer that.
Something District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler agrees with.
Here's somebody that is accused of killing another human being. They couldn't resolve whatever issues they had to the level in which they didn't have to resort to some type of violence. So what does that say if they're outside of the jail? Can you trust that person enough to control their emotions?
As of now, even with the new trend in the Tulsa County court system, bonds for first-degree murder suspects, when set, are exceptionally high. In fact, bail bondsmen tell me many people in the business don't even have enough money on deposit with the state to post a bond of $1 million or more. And if they do, they don't want that kind of liability. All of those first-degree murder defendants currently remain behind bars. But the same cannot be said for one man charged with what's called felony murder. He's now out walking among us. According to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals website, the felony murder statute states that a person commits murder when that person or another person takes the life of a human during, or if the death of a human being results from, the commission of an underlying felony. You may remember when Serenity McAdoo was killed at the Center of the Universe in downtown Tulsa in 2022. 3 people are charged with felony murder in the case because she died after being hit with a bullet during a shootout. The law is saying no one intended to kill her, but she died because of the crime already taking place. Records show in 2022, a judge originally set the bonds for 2 of the suspects at $1 million and the other at $400,000. Now, 2 of them have had their bond reduced to $50,000, and one of them, Taylor Orr, has bonded out. It happened, prosecutors tell me, over, quote, strenuous objections. But Dean says he agrees with the move.
As the criminal defense bar, we take that as an optimistic sign that perhaps attitudes are changing about the requirement to put money down in order to defend yourself, in order to have adequate time to defend yourself.
As for Kunzweiler, you, as a Tulsa County District Attorney, are you okay with where we're at right now with bonds actually being set?
I will continue to encourage my people, and if I'm in court, I'm going to be saying there's no bond, Judge. My job is to make sure my community's safe. We'll argue what we can argue and then move forward. Because ultimately, if we have a prosecutable case, the best outcome is finding that person guilty and removing them from the community and put them in prison where they ought to be. But that's a process, and we're going to continue to follow that process.
All right, I know it's a lot to take in. This story actually just scratches the surface of the very complex and controversial debate on the cash bond system. In the coming weeks and months, I will continue to investigate other changes we are seeing in Tulsa County and what that may mean for the future.